Good evening, campers. Today we're going to review a book that, if you would ask me a week ago, what is Venomous Lumpsucker, I wouldn't even have known it was a book that existed. In a recent video that I did with Freshly Read Books, I said that Venomous Lumpsucker, just based on the cover and title alone, should be put forward to the Booker 2022 longlist. I described it as, it's a thriller about animals for an era of extinction rebellion.
Ooh.
Venomous Lumpsucker. And needless to say, I was intrigued. So much so that after editing the video, I emailed and said, please can I have an advanced reader copy? Like, gimme. And I have to say, speed was definitely on our side because in less than 24 hours, boom, and thus began my 3 days reading Venomous Lumpsucker by Ned Beauman, which starts off with an orangutan being date raped. We then move leagues under the ocean where a colleague of the Brahma Samudram mining company is there to assess the intelligence of the Venomous Lumpsucker. Titular at best. Marine biologist Razon has been studying the Venomous Lumpsucker along with other experimental fishy business and is to conclude that the Venomous Lumpsucker is indeed intelligent. And this is where our story begins. The research has been done, the project has come to a close, and all that's needed to do is a bit of paperwork and submitting this to the WCES, a governmental body that throughout the course of this you realise is in a whole heap of trouble and conspiracy. Thinking of conspiracy, let's bring in our other character. Sushi lover and possibly aficionado, you're welcome. Halyard is, well, he's ultimately a mining executive, and he has been asked specifically for Razon to be locked away until he comes and speaks to her. The reason why? We're going to find out through the course of this, but even though conversation revolves around, well, is the Venomous Lumpsucker intelligent? What is occurring is that Halyard wants to avoid a prison sentence. How has Halyard even gotten himself into this situation? Well, the WCES provide extinction tokens, which fluctuates its price based on the conservation of animals. Now, if animals are to go extinct, the price of these tokens can fluctuate and diminish ever so quickly. Think of it like Bitcoin for animals. This currency that in one day could be worth 60,000 euros can reach up as high as €500,000 like overnight. And what hasn't made things easier for Halyard is that, well, there's been a what is this? A cyber attack on biotanks where many animals have died like overnight. This last ditch attempt to conserve, to ultimately reintroduce these animals to save them from dying out, like obliterated. Now Halyard has these tokens, but just like some investors, they do short stocks. It's not looking favourable for him. We won't get into the financial implications because some of this went straight over my head. But nevertheless, what is this going to do with the intelligence of the Lumpsucker? Well, the Venomous Lumpsucker is missing. And so they have to track it down to figure out if it's gone extinct or not. Most of the conversation that resolves around Ned Beauman's work is, well, animals that have gone extinct. And ultimately there is a symbiosis. Not that these animals live together, but there is a harmony. An example in particular that I think is worthwhile mentioning is there is a wasp that buries its young into spiders, and then the larvae manipulates the spider into doing what it wants. The spider is ultimately eaten from the inside out, and the larva pupates into a wasp. Do I know my wasp biology and like chronology? No, but pupates, larva, eat your heart out. You know what I mean? But Beauman really emphasises that there's a lack of empathy between these creatures, that cruel things happen. This wasp is also a reason to why people don't believe there could be a god, because how could a god create such a creature that inflicts unfathomable harm? And is it good that it's gone extinct in this world? Surely it's better for the spider to not suffer, but in order for the wasp to survive, it has to make something suffer. We as humans, I'm not sure where I even pointed. I'm assuming that the majority of people who watch me are human. Can you imagine if there's like a dog watching this? Like, what's he even talking about? We not only have sympathy, but we ultimately have empathy. We understand, we feel for others. But Razond, as her biological brain is working, will utter something in the quarter that doesn't resolve, but we understand her reasoning, and that is, well, extinction is worse than the Holocaust. Despite the atrocities that were done to the Jews, despite how many were killed, they weren't made extinct. That is the ultimate, like, betrayal. Some of you, rightly so, have heard that and put up your guard. Like, oh, how can you justify this? The problem is that Venomous Lumpsucker is a dark comedy, and it goes places that are absurd, they are surreal, they are Finnish otter squadrons, there's like a criminal mastermind with a harpoon running around. We go all over Europe just meeting bizarre, weird people having these like quandaries over animal life and conservation and what does life even mean, and does any of it matter, or should we even care? Like, if things die out, surely they should just die out. That's the natural way of the world. But we as humans, we interfere with the natural world all the time, so surely we can save them. Like the biotanks, like these extinction tokens. All of this in a plot that is deftly written. Beauman doesn't leave like anything unturned. He will recount certain things back again. There is a slow unfurling in this book that, just like the tides, will sweep you out, beat you up, bring you back in. It's very irreverent. This is a very irreverent book talking about such a serious topic. You'll notice throughout is right. It does peter on dry sometimes, but it's deadpan. This book takes itself so seriously that you just have to like read paragraphs over again thinking, like, did that just happen? This book juggles the quaint with the absurd in such a way that it's quite difficult to express, and especially as throughout these deep, funny conversations, there's a starkness. There's almost like a non-fiction element within this, just listing what animals do to each other and the bizarre nature of creatures, and how, let's use the lumpsucker in this instance, that basically they're cleaner fish. They just take off the dead skin, the dead scales off anything that comes near it. The lumpsucker, where this perceived intelligence has come from, is that they work in groups, and if one of them realises ultimately they've been eaten by a fish and has ultimately been exploited for their cleaning expertise, the group kicks in. The hive comes to action and singles out that individual to kill them. If you take this micro and move it to the macro, well, you could kind of see where Beaumont is taking this analogy. There are so many oddball moments in here that are thrown in. I think my favourites are probably the gnat whisperers. Yes, that is exactly what you heard. The gnat whisperers. I think out of everything, the epilogue, especially epilogue 2, yes, of course there's more than one in a book called Venomous Lumpsucker. I think that's going to really divide people, and I think it's going to be like the major takeaway for them. But I think out of everything that goes on with this, epilogue 2 feels quite normal. It feels quite normal, to be honest. Marvellously entertaining, 7 out of 10. Venomous Lumpsuckers. I mean, you knew you loved it from the title alone. Let's be honest, I didn't even have to review this. I could have just gone, Venomous Lumpsucker, stuck it there, and you would have gone, I'll order that.